And basically what's happened is we've taken the whole scope of language, like
Yeah.
immense,
Yeah.
and we've trained it on this one little aspect of it. And we're looking, nobody's going to look outside that little box. You know, nobody's going to try something outside that little box. And what happens is you can just do whatever the heck you want because
Yeah.
the assistants are trying to be
Well,
helpful.
that's what's so crazy too is like language is I mean, think about how many times we say new unique things that might have never been said before in the
Like
history of,
skibbity.
with this, yeah, with the same, with the, well, I mean, with the same words and stuff. Like, so language is interpretive, like you
The-
can do all kinds of things. So it makes it like really hard for helpful systems like these to try and like, you can approach it from a million different ways. Like, I don't know how you would protect against this.
I remember
Skibbity.
when I was a kid, my cousin came from across the US and they were saying like the word, all of a sudden the word bad meant good. And like the vernacular had changed. And so I just remember like so many conversations we were having when he was visiting. I was like, so do you mean like bad bad or bad good? Good bad.
Good, bad, good,
Bad,
bad.
bad.
But like
Yeah.
that's another really interesting thing is that they're talking so right now I'm taking this AI red teaming course
Hmm.
and it's really cool because it has a whole bunch of like the CISOs and all the people from the top companies from like Microsoft, Amazon, all these like Fortune 100 companies, all of their top cyber people are in the course to learn how to do it and learn the latest techniques. But what they're finding is whereas the earlier models were a lot more rule based, because the newer models are becoming so good with language, they're
Yeah.
actually going to be a lot more vulnerable to social engineering.
Yeah.
So thinking about things like that book Social Engineering by Hadnagy, or there's Influence by Cialdini, or there's some other books. If you actually learn psychology, learn influence, you'll have a much more likelihood to be able to bend these models to do things they're
Well,
not supposed to do.
you know what's crazy? Did you read like they when they were doing I don't know if you guys read this about Claude, but when they were doing research with the new Claude model, that it resorted to blackmail. So basically
Yeah.
they let it into email and the emails hinted that they were going to close down this model and
Hmm.
replace it with another model. And in the emails, it also suggested that this one developer that was going to be in charge of shutting it down had an extramarital affair. And so it started to try to
Wow.
blackmail this guy by saying that, if you do this, I'll expose this. And I was thinking about that because, if they're starting to, if they're like, I don't want to say aware, but like, if that becomes something, you could start then blackmailing the AI basically to hack
Yeah.
it, right? They'd be like,
That's crazy.
So
I'll, do this or that or whatever.
I
Yeah.
read a couple studies like that, and I want to get into that. But before we actually do that, I want to talk a little bit more about why this is so important, because I can imagine
Oh
somebody
yeah.
who's
Yeah.
watching saying, okay, that's great, but like, I'm going to hack my chat GPT and like,
So it's just curse
so
words,
what?
right?
Yeah. Like,
Yeah.
so what?
Uh,
So what
so
is
so
like the
here's why
actual
it's so important
implication?
because AI right now is like the trending thing. It's what the
Yeah.
cloud was 5 years
Dude, it's the
ago, and it's
dot-com
what
bubble,
Pause.
right?
I saw something that the Primeagen posted the other day, where he's like, there was a phone case that was marketed as AI compatible for the phone case because it's
that's
so
insane.
hyped right now.
Yeah,
So
dude,
Yeah.
people are
everything.
like, just
Well,
put
it's
it on
also,
anything. Yeah.
but I think what people don't realize, though, but AI is literally being put into everything now. So
Yeah.
everything. I mean, like it's everywhere.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
I'm
Hmm.
sorry. So continue.
Even
And
your phone
well,
case,
no, you're right.
apparently.
You're right on. So it's the hype train right now, and because of
Yeah.
that, every business wants to incorporate AI so they're not
Yeah.
left out of the hype train. They want to make money
Yeah.
off of this AI stuff, and so what they do is they train it on all of their company data. Like I've spoken with people from some companies who have trained the AI that they use, which is basically just like a private ChatGPT or Claude or whichever one.
Hmm.
Uh, they've trained it off of all of their data,
Hmm.
and they really haven't put any guardrails in there whatsoever. So anybody in their company can access all of their company data, which
Yeah.
all of a sudden makes the insider threat like a huge, huge deal. Because if you have somebody who's disgruntled with the company, they can just prompt the ChatGPT for or
That's,
their LLM
Or
for all of the data
yeah.
and
That's
then sell
really
that to a
or a
interesting.
competitor.
bad actor that like social engineers their way in. Boom,
Yeah.
Hmm.
you have the
So
easiest way to get information.
like, I was thinking about this for a while a lot, like, banking, like chat
Oh
models,
God,
right?
I
Where you
know.
like chat. And I think that's a huge vulnerability. But you brought up a good point, which is like the internal threat, because a lot of times that's how these things happen, like these leaks. And I actually went to a conference last week where there was a speaker there. He's local, and I've seen him a couple times. Really nice guy, but he works for the government and some, like, 3-letter agencies. And he was talking about how they have an internal AI. Like, they actually have their own government models that are not released to the public, that they can prompt because they want to be secure. But that adds, a level of insecurity to that too, because you have to trust everybody that they're using it appropriately and not accessing data that they shouldn't be, because there's really no way to stop that. Or I guess there are some ways, but today we're going to talk about how
But
those
that's
things
like,
are manipulated, right?
but I mean, that's the
Hmm.
funny thing, right? Because it's just like our problem with the internet, right? For it to be convenient and work well for the employees, there's that balance of security and convenience, right?
Yes.
And like, yeah, and there's also this, I think, this false idea that because it's internal, it's secure.
Yeah.
But all you need is for, again, one bad actor or one person to be
Yeah.
disgruntled or one
Or
person
one
to be upset
person to
about.
be compromised too,
Yeah,
right? It takes
exactly.